University. You're going to hear games Juan Dixon as well as head coach Dwayne Burrows of the Lady Eagles joining us here. But part of our partnership also is getting to know some of the other coaches over at Coppin State. This guy's getting it together right now, trying to get through this winter season. We had the baseball coach on last week. Now we move to the softball side. Gino Olivieri is joining us. His third year now over at Coppin and trying to get the schedule together. He's got a tournament coming up. But, Coach, one thing I'll tell you, man, I played a lot of baseball, and I covered softball for a number of years during the late 1980s at the Baltimore Sun. I was a softball reporter. Cold weather and baseball and softball, I do not know how colleges, high schools go out there on fields in February and play the sports of baseball or softball, which are similar.
Well, sometimes you just got to get in that mindset. You know you're going to have some bad weather, and you kind of just have to, fight through it. Well, knowing that you got to get the games in.
And you're practicing out there in January, right? Literally. And
yes.
What happens when the snow comes on the field? You just move them inside somehow?
Either inside or we go on the turf. We'll get the practice in one way or another.
Well, you've been at this a long time, and,
yes.
There's only good weather in Florida and California and Arizona in January, I guess. So everyone else, I know there have been some conjecture about maybe moving some of these sports into the fall, and I know that might not be realistic or playing games somehow a little bit later, but this is sort of the state of baseball and stuff. But they're not built for the collegiate and for the timing of schedule in the real world, right?
No, that's correct. And the fall does seem to be a lot better. Last place I coached was in New York, and I often said it would have been much better to play in the fall than the spring. So there's something to that.
Well, I would think every coach would think that way, right? But maybe
yes.
the programs don't believe in that. And there's a lot going on in the fall for every university, right?
Well, yeah, because of football too. Yeah, I mean that's a busy time for football, and so in one way it makes sense to have softball in the spring, but then there's the other side to it. So,
Coach, one of the reasons I like talking to the non-basketball, everybody knows Coppin has a basketball program. I think the track program is also, pretty renowned at this point. But at any university, there's a softball program, there's a bowling program, whatever the programs are that aren't football or basketball. Let's just call it, or soccer if you're at the right university. There's a notion that they're there and it's kind of quiet, but man, it's 52 weeks a year for anyone coaching at any sport at any level, and I know you came from Alfred over to Coppin. Talk me through the last couple of years for you and coming to a D1 program where you have MEAC and you have maybe more kids playing at more levels and more population for sure, but in a recruiting sense, to recruit kids to play softball, it is different, it's special, and I covered it 30 years ago, so I'm pretty familiar with how many girls are playing softball around here and doing it at a very, very high level, especially down in Anne Arundel County.
Absolutely, and it's getting even bigger too in the summer with travel ball teams, and these tournaments are now all year round all over the country. So it's still a pretty big sport, and it's growing every day. And you have to go out and recruit on a regular basis, and it's 52 weeks a year. I mean, we're recruiting all the time. It never ends. We're trying to rebuild and make this program better.
I was always blown away, and I was a young person at the time. I mean, the girls playing weren't much younger than I at the time. I was probably 20, 21 years old. I played baseball as a kid my whole life. Not that I made fun of softball, but I didn't have a sister, and I didn't go to softball games. And I started covering softball, and I saw these girls bringing that underhanded heat right up on top of you. And I was, 20, 21 years old. I wouldn't have gotten a bat. I wouldn't have ever touched the ball. I mean, I'm just talking at a high school level, not at a collegiate level. And now that I'm older, I have a dear friend of mine whose daughter played at Alabama for a number of years and played in the World Series and all that stuff. And when I see it on TV in the spring, and there's a lot. ESPN has a big commitment. I mean, there's very few times I won't put the TV on in the spring and see some sort of a women's softball being played at the collegiate level that you see it. It really is kind of amazing the dimensions of the field and how hard it is to hit the softball when these girls are bringing that kind of underhanded heat.
Yeah, it's underhanded heat with a lot of movement, and not to mention it's coming back in the Olympics again, and it's still very popular. And what attracted me to the game was the speed and the everything moves just so fast, and it was just so exciting to watch. And it was something I couldn't wait to get into.
How long have you been involved in softball? Not as a vocation, but certainly from an interest level. Because you did other things with your career. You had a whole career before you began the softball journey, right?
Yeah, I did. I Well, I went to the University of Delaware, and I played football there, won a national championship. I was the starting halfback at the time. And
was that Gannon era? When was that?
No, you got to go back to Jeff Comlo and Scott Bruner.
Scott Bruner, there you go.
Yeah.
Delaware was putting guys in the league back in the day, weren't they?
Yes, they were. And
still are here in Baltimore, by the way. That's a tip of my cap to Joe Flacco out there as I wear my Ravens hat.
Yeah, I will too. But, so I played at Delaware. Then I went to the Detroit Lions for 2 years. And from there I went to New York, and I was a police officer for 20 years. And I took a couple years off after I retired and got into softball, and I've been coaching for 13 years.
Well, when you were when the police force, was softball something you were doing with your fellow cadets and people? Was it a game you played at that point? Because
No. It was actually what got me started was I have a son, and then I have 2 daughters, but my 2 daughters are only 2 years apart, and they're the ones who kind of dragged me into it. And it was throwing to them and pitching to them, and then as I watched them play, I just fell in love with the game, and they both went on to play Division I softball too. So one played at Binghamton and one played at UMBC right around the corner here. So it was just great watching them play. And then it was also nice because UMBC and Binghamton's in the same conference, and I got to watch them play together, being 2 years apart, play against each other. So that was some good memories.
It is a family plan for, I think, any of the smaller schools when it comes to baseball, softball, anything, because you're not going to sell 10,000 tickets. You're not playing in major stadiums, but the people that do come out, and I noticed this for the years. I covered softball for about 5 years, that, there's an incredible sort of built-in thing, and it's almost a pure version of sport that we don't get, at the football and the basketball level, where there is a whole lot more at stake, I would say, for finances and making the pros and doing all that. Anyone playing softball, they're literally doing it for the love, and more than that, for the education at your level, right?
Oh, absolutely, and it is, and you can still have fun while winning, and playing hard and practicing hard, and even last year when we were down in Louisiana and at East Carolina playing down there, we had a lot of parents and family come and watch the games, and it is kind of that atmosphere. But we're trying to rebuild here, and we want to win some games. And last year we lost 12 games by 1 run, so we're close. We made the MEACs last year, and we finished strong, winning 6 out of our last 8 games in the conference. So we're rebuilding, and we did all that with just freshmen and sophomores last year. So we're rebuilding, and we're getting there.
Gino Olivieri joining us here. He is the softball coach over at Coppin. You can go to CoppinStateSports.com to get more information on anything that's going on. There's a great bio of Gino's story there. You don't have the schedule up yet, and I know there's some compliance in getting the schedule out, but I know you have your own tournament, and I know you're really proud of that, and I wanted to give you a chance to promote that a little bit. I don't know that I'm coming out and watching your girls play on February 9th, freezing out there playing softball, but I do know that you got the big MEAC schedule in front of you, and I was kind of shocked talking baseball side, just how often you play. There's a lot of games that begin in the cold, and it's a very, very active season for softball and baseball.
Yeah, it's nonstop. It's 56 games in the spring plus playoffs, and
56 games in what, about 90 days?
Yeah,
wow.
End of February to the end of April.
You better have some pitching.
Yeah, exactly. We always can use some pitching. But, we do. We are having our own tournament this year. We're the Coppin State Eagle Classic, and we have Hartford coming, Fairleigh Dickinson, Ryder, St. Peter's, St. Bonaventure. We have 8 schools coming, and we're excited about that. We're heading out to Arkansas this year. We're playing Kansas for our tournament. We're playing Kansas, South Dakota State, Louisiana, Monroe, Central Arkansas. So we're going out there, and we're going to have an Armed Forces game this year on April. When is that? April. It's against Mount St. Mary's, so that would be April 17th, and we're excited about that. So,
well, when's your tournament? When's the tournament here? The 8-teamer.
Oh, our tournament here at Coppin State's March 2nd to the 4th. It's a weekend, and we'll be going all day. and probably under the lights here for a little bit too. So
last thing for you, locally and the way the game is played around here, recruiting locally. Speak to that a little bit and how many kids, even here in the dead of winter, are working on softball in a cage somewhere indoor. Because you were a parent of two girls that played. It really is a nonstop thing at this juncture where you got girls working out here in into December throughout the holidays, getting ready for the season, right?
Yes, absolutely, and the recruiting is going on locally and out west and down south. I mean, I go out west and I go down south. If you take a look at my roster, I have a lot of West Coast girls, and but the East Coast have a lot of tough kids, a lot of good players out here, and I attend a lot of those travel ball tournaments too. So we go all over, out west, California, Vegas, down to Florida, the Carolinas, and then the East Coast I hit quite a bit too, because there's a lot of those travel ball teams come east to play.
Well, listen, next time we get together, I'm going to talk to you about your Detroit Lions career. We're going to trade some notes about Main Street up there in Newark, Delaware, where I was last week, and your Blue Hens and all that stuff. Might even talk a little Joe Flacco. So I am looking forward to coming back and chat with you later on in the winter as you guys get going with your softball season. It was great having you on for the first time. Thanks for coming on,
great.
Gino.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you. Gino Olivieri. You got to put the Vieri in there. I said, is it Olivieri? It's Vieri. I said, I got a little Italian in me as well. Coppin State Sports, and we are your home for Eagles basketball all winter long for the Lady Eagles as well as the men. We'll be hearing from Juan Dixon momentarily, and you can learn more at CoppinStateSports.com. Coppin State-wise into a season that is fully in swing right now. And, of course, Juan Dixon running the men's program over there at Coppin. They got some local games, as do the Lady Eagles. We welcome the head coach of the Lady Eagles, Dwayne Burrows, back on after a rough little visit out there to Morgantown. I've been to Morgantown a couple times, Coach Burrows. I'll tell you what, but the West Virginia ladies, and I remember the days of Rosemary Kosorik here and West Virginia having a nice little pipeline of local kids. They're a great program. Then they got Maryland next week. This is the tough part of your schedule right now, right?
Yes, it is. Very tough part of the schedule. You play in West Virginia, who's ranked 10th in the country, and Maryland's right behind them as well. So this is a tough part. We just got to grind it out at this point.
Well, this Maryland game's a big deal, right? Talk to me a little bit about this. It's happening on Wednesday. It's an afternoon game, holiday week, the whole deal. But for Brenda to sort of stretch out throughout the state, I mean, we know what the national championship represents and all that. I love it when not just Coppin, UMBC, Loyola, Mount St. Mary's, UMES, when any of those teams are taking on the state schools and when we keep it local, I like that part of it. I think it's cool you guys can go visit in other places, but I like when the local teams play each other to measure up.
Oh, yeah. You got to want to play Maryland. We look forward to playing Loyola, Towson, UMBC. That's just, like you said, the state schools is a huge rivalry. It brings in the fans for whether it's at Coppin or it's at one of their facilities. The local fans get to see the local schools play, and I think that's huge for this community.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt everyone that's familiar with your program or Maryland or whatever understands the money games and some of the whippings, quite frankly. I mean, this has been going on for 50 years, nothing new. But you take these games and you try to test yourself. You try to prepare your kids for that kind of level of competition, I guess in the hopes for the MEAC and getting things right. You're getting toward the end of this right now. And obviously it's been a rough go for you guys. You won a game against Mount St. Mary's a couple weeks ago, but some of these Missouris and some of these West Virginias and Baylor that you've taken on, where are you girls right now getting ready here for conference play, which is the most important thing for any of the smaller schools?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough on the kids, but they understand what we have to do. We have to do for the school and for the program to play some of these money games. But like I tell them, we need to get better and better every night. It doesn't matter who we're playing. We need to work. Run our offensive sets, work on our defensive stuff, and get better and better every night. And my kids, they have been. We have 2 major injuries right now that we're still fighting through. One kid's done for the season, but the next kid's stepping up, and they're just playing like they're getting the opportunity, and they're taking advantage of the opportunity. So as long as we're getting better and better every night, that's all I can ask at this point in the season. And like you said, we look forward to the MEAC season coming up. And, as long as we're ready for that, I think we'll be okay.
Well, and trying to get good health. I mean, we watched the Steelers and the Ravens run around the other night. I mean, healthy is everything for any team at this point, especially when you spend the whole offseason building your team one way and you had a devastating injury that's changed things for you.
Yeah, it definitely changed things for us. It changed the coaching style. We have to go to our bench a little bit more than what we really wanted to early in the year. And, some of these kids that are freshmen will now have to be like pretty much sophomores at this point in the year because they played so many minutes because of the injury that we had. But they're buying in. They're working hard every day in practice, and we get better and better every night.
Well, the other part about your schedule, I know this isn't true for every university, you're going to have a little shutdown period here. Send the girls home for Christmas, whatever. You're going to get a week and a half, 2 weeks off before you really get going against Norfolk State early in the year. January 3rd is when the conference play really begins. But some thoughts about some downtime here because it probably doesn't feel like it's a fresh season right now. It probably feels like you've been going pretty hard for 60 days because you and every other program. Right?
Hey. Right. And we give our kids a week off. Well, they're only going to get 3 days, but it seems like it's a week and a half. Get to rest some bodies, more important. Get to rest some bodies. When they come back right after Christmas, we'll start getting back into shape condition-wise and scrimmaging each other and getting ready for the MEAC. You got to give them a break, especially we have such a young crew. I think going home for holidays is very important to this crew.
Well, hey, always a pleasure to check in with you. We'll see you again next week or down the line. If I don't talk to you during the holidays, have a safe and a merry one, and we'll see you on the other side of that as you guys get ready for MEAC. Coppin State Ladies taking on the Terps on the 20th of December. That is a Wednesday afternoon, 2 p.m. Of course, lots of the ladies' games as well as the men's games and the home games all aired right here at WNST AM 1570 and WNST.net. If you need more information on Coppin State and on the program at D. Wayne Burroughs and the Lady Eagles or Juan Dixon's men, you can find that at CoppinStateSports.com.